I'm going to be asking for my own sit down with him. I've never met him. So I'm anxious to meet him and to be able to visit with him one-on-one. So there's some work that we all have in front of us, and I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and getting to work.
I know that he is held in high regard by many attorneys and judges whom I know, but obviously he needs to go through the full vetting process, and I very much look forward to meeting with him in my office.
So right there, representing the states of Alaska and Maine, two very critical Republican senators, if Brett Kavanaugh is to be confirmed and sworn in as Justice Kavanaugh. Today was his first day on Capitol Hill, where he met with the Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Kavanaugh's so-called Sherpa was there on the right. That's former Arizona Republican Senator John Kyle. He's with him to help him make the rounds, getting to know you type deal. President Trump's nominee also met with the Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley. The Iowa Republican called Kavanaugh a respected jurist with outstanding opinions. The robust and loud PR campaigns for and against his confirmation already well underway. Some Democratic senators went for sheer volume last night after this nominee was announced.
We must convince the Senate to do the right thing and stand against Kavanaugh.
We have the American people on our side. Now we have got to go state by state by state to make sure that senators do what their constituents want. I want to tell you right now, we will not go backwards. We will not surrender. We will not move. We will go forward.
Judge Kavanaugh has been sitting on a pre-approved list of right-wing nominees for 8 months now. I have reviewed his record, and let me tell you, Brett Kavanaugh did not end up on this list because he is the consensus nominee.
That's pretty much how that went. Michael Scherer of the Washington Post wrote last night, quote, groups on both sides have prepared multi-million-dollar digital and television ad campaigns set to start Monday night. Even before President Trump's announcement that Brett M. Kavanaugh will be his Supreme Court nominee, the battle plans were in place and the arguments had been framed. What happens next is a no-holds-barred fight for public opinion and Senate votes, which history suggests the president is heavily favored to win. At least one organization, the Women's March, might have shot itself in the foot last night. A FoxNews.com reporter grabbed a screenshot of a press release from the organization calling for the defeat of the nominee, but the two X's indicated it was written before we knew who the nominee was going to be. With us tonight to talk about all of it, the aforementioned Michael Scherer, national political reporter for The Washington Post, and Nancy Cook, back with us as well, White House reporter for Politico. So, Michael, I know some of this is going over already plowed ground. Where do you put the odds right now? We know kind of what the math is, even without John McCain as a live voting member there in the Senate chamber when it happens.
Yeah, I think if you watch the body language of Murkowski and Collins today, and they really are the key votes here, one of them alone, if the Democrats hold together and McCain doesn't return, could sink the nomination. It wasn't good for Democrats. The basic body language was to say, you know, of course we're going to go through the process, we're going to do a thorough review, but there were no immediate warning signs flashing from either of them, and that suggests that this is going to be a very difficult path for Democrats, unless something comes out. And, you know, we've been through enough of these to know that something could come out. Kavanaugh has a very long paper trail, and they will actually do the due diligence here. Both sides are going to actually, you know, dig deep into his paper trail, talk to people. Anyone who has any complaint about him will have an opportunity to come forward to the committee. And, you know, if they have a credible complaint, something new comes out, you know, that could affect the outcome of this.
Nancy, people forget, you know, Earl Warren was a governor, and the governors obviously bring a record to the Supreme Court. A rookie member of the federal bench who hasn't written much would obviously be more of an enigma. But as Michael points out, we're talking about 300 opinions, give or take. Let me ask you something lightly infused by Michael Corleone, and that is, how are they going to come at this guy?
Well, I think Democrats are really planning to go after him a few ways. They're planning to go after the idea that he could roll back potentially Roe v. Wade and reproductive rights, that he could undo gun control restrictions, that he could dismantle the Affordable Care Act. And I think the new strategy that the Democrats have really hit on today, after knowing exactly who the nominee is the idea that he could somehow impede impeachment proceedings if the Democrats took back the House.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.